And then show the profile pics. And they'll like heart it. And if they heart you back.
Okay, I see nobody queued up with the food, so I think we are here and about ready to get started. So welcome to, what is this? It's May already, May Day, to our meeting of DNewTech Meetup. I think everyone's familiar with the format. We'll have one keynote speaker, then we'll have our 5 entrepreneur companies that will each speak for 5 minutes, and then we'll have 5 minutes of Q&A. Just to remind everyone, we do have a timer. The timer will go off. Everyone's been practicing non-stops. They will stick to the time frame. Not. But that's okay. We'll cut you off. So let me go ahead and thank our sponsors before we get started. Go ahead and grab a seat. So the sponsors of our session are Schedule. New startup automatically reminds people of their appointments. It automatically fills in canceled appointments for the company. Atomic Object, both Grand Rapids and Detroit. World-class software products driven by a unique culture, which cares, and they actually do what they say they're going to do. The Mid-Michigan Innovation Center, based in both Midland and Traverse City. They work to connect entrepreneurs and businesses with the resources they need to succeed, primarily in upper and middle Michigan. Start Card of Grand Rapids, a seed fund, $5,000, 2 ideas every week, from experiment to project to startup to taking over the world. Wisdom, based in both Detroit and Cleveland, an incubator for primarily IT-based companies involving networking, nurturing, and growing. And Quicken Loans, this is one of the Quicken Loans buildings. I don't know if you've read the paper, Quicken Loans is only the 3rd largest provider of residential loans in the USA now. It's pretty cool. Why? Honor, trust, and commitment are the things that I pick up on them. So we're pleased to be in one of their buildings again and to have such a really good turnout. The order, I'll introduce Patti in just a second. I think the entrepreneurs know their order. We'll start with Ben, then Jacob, then Thomas, then Barak, and then Dan. And the presentations are all loaded. Here, I think, so we're all set. So our first speaker will be Patti Glaza. Patti's a principal at Arsenal Venture Partners. She's been working in technology for the past 20 years. She started as a COBOL programmer. Is COBOL still used?
COBOL, yeah. Yeah, people still use that, but it's, I actually heard we're in high demand right now because there's so few of us left.
That's kind of what I thought. Okay.
My next career, go back.
As a COBOL programmer for Accenture, she later specialized in supply chain logistics software implementation. She first started working in venture back in the late 90s, found her passion with some portfolio companies. 3 startups later, she's now back to investing. She's both a Spartan and a U of M grad. That would definitely make you schizophrenic. And you can see that in her career. No, I'll invest. No, I'll start something. No, I'll invest. So it kind of goes along with being split across the state. So Patti's going to talk a little bit about what she does and how it relates to what we're trying to do. And I think she has about a 5-hour presentation to give. So I hope everyone's here for the evening. No. So, but she'll talk and then we'll have some Q&A. I think Roger wants you over here. Thanks.
And thank you for inviting me today. I appreciate it. I'm only going to speak for a few minutes and then really be open to questions because I think that's really the most valuable piece that I can give to you guys. From, I'm very similar to most VCs in some respects. I'm very much a geek, pretty nerdy. We have pretty poor social skills in general. And we're very type A. So we're always moving and looking and seeing, trying to find the next thing. Though I do feel I've been able to moderate myself, and maybe Dave and I worked together at my first startup. But I have been able to moderate myself over the years, having gone through 3 startups and survived kind of the craziness of that. Plus I have 2 preteen girls that are testing me every day on the stress level. I think in regards to how I'm not traditional VC, so I am very Midwest. I was born here in Michigan. I'm very down to earth, very straightforward. You're not going to see me playing games. I just want to know what you're doing, how I can help, and if there's an investment opportunity. And when I say how I can help, there are a lot of times where it may not be a good investment fit, but my firm, Arsenal Venture Partners, has made a commitment to Michigan, and part of my role is to help support and develop the entrepreneur community. So I do really mean that. I'm not just looking for investment, where I'm going to invest in next, but I'm looking at, can I help companies along the way as I meet them, connect them to other folks, or provide some ideas or suggestions on the business model, whatever small things I can do. That's really what I love about my job. Somebody asked me that the other day. They said, what do you love about your job and what do you hate about it? And when I said, the love component was certainly being able to help companies. What I really dislike about my job is how few companies I can actually fund. So a little bit more on Arsenal. So Arsenal is a venture group that's been around for a little over 13 years. Our headquarters are based in Florida. We do have an office in Palo Alto. I think everyone almost has to have an office in Palo Alto. So we have 2 folks out there. And then we also have someone part-time in Ohio. We're typically A/B round investors. So we'd like to deploy about $1 to $1.5 million in a first round, and then reserve about $4 to $7 million for a company over its life. Because that first investment is only the first. There are many others that typically occur. We typically invest in healthcare, or not healthcare, that's one of the areas we don't invest in very much. Typically invest in IT, energy, power, industrial, environmental technologies. It can be a pretty broad range. Right now in our portfolio we have 5 investments. 4 are traditional investments for us. So 4, we've done the A/B round. What's a little unusual about what most people think of these A/B rounds though now is we tend to get involved in much bigger syndicates. So while we'll lead the round, or we'll follow depending what the company wants, but these rounds are they're a little bit bigger. So we'll do, our round size averaged about $8 million for our first 4 deals. And this is really because what we're trying to, you've heard sort of these funding gaps that we're starting to see. What we want to do is make sure that we've got the right capital mix around the table. So instead of giving a company a very short runway, we want to make sure that if we can bring a strategic to the table that can drive a certain path for the company, or we can bring 2 other investors at the table who also have pockets of funding available, that's where we want to add value to the company. So we'll take a little less equity to get a stronger syndicate of folks around the room. We did recently do a seed deal, and it's a little unusual for us, but we might still do a couple more. There's some opportunity, especially here in Michigan, where we're seeing a lot of really good companies who only need, 250, 500,000 total, and have come up to, that last 100, 150,000 with some good, angel groups or small investors, who've done that seed round, just need a little bit more capital. And so we're considering more of those rounds now just to help some of these companies move a little faster before we do the actual full A round, build those relationships. I thought I would share real quick, some of those transition points. So kind of the big transition points in my life were going from Fortune 500 down to the startup, and then back from startup to VC. And I think those were really important career and adjustment factors for me. So going from Fortune 500 to the startup, I think the real key 3 things that made a huge difference were the ability to make decisions really fast with less than perfect information. And if you guys are involved with startups, you know that. But I didn't. Coming from Fortune 500, you sort of, you come up with a decision and you go through the different management layers, and 3 months later you're still back trying to figure out what to do. Startups is just about move. Also about the value of not just the dollar, because I think we all know the value of the dollar and how far you've got to stretch it, but the value of time, and that every second you have is a second you don't have to do something else. And so that ruthless prioritization that comes into play in startups really is extremely different from the startup world. And the last is the throwing of spaghetti on the wall. So when I first got into startups, I used to fight with Ted all the time. Ted Deco was our boss. And I'd be like, oh, you're asking us to do all these things all at one time. How can we get them done right if we're just throwing all this stuff at the wall? And what I really came to realize, and what is at the forefront of startup theory, is really rapid prototyping and rapid customer validation. And so take a bunch of, not necessarily take a bunch of ideas at one time, but rapidly test new ideas and see what's getting traction from the marketplace. You don't have 6 months to build a fully functional product and then see if somebody likes it. Test early and move fast. And those are probably the three biggest things that make a difference in that transition. Now going back to the other side of the fence and being an investor. And I think one of the perspectives I have as an investor that maybe some of my colleagues don't have is how bumpy that road can be. A lot of investors have had these wild successes of, the Facebooks, the eBays, and they go into investing. I've really ridden through some very hard times at companies, from, massive layoffs to having to watch cash flow, from, every week, are we going to make it to the next week, and engaging the team to make that happen, to selling a company and watching the buying company slowly dismantle the love and energy we'd put into that company for years. So there's a lot of hard roads that go with startups, and I think having folks who understand not only the good and that can help you get there, but also understand some of the pain points and can empathize and help you move through the hard times faster is also really beneficial. So again, on that transition point, relationships. I would never have believed how important relationships are to you. And it's not when you need money, it's before you need money. It's building, being at places like this, meeting investors early, or meeting people who know potentially strategics down the line, or connecting you, helping you to connect the dots. And the more you can socialize in different types of groups and start to develop trust with people. If you develop just a tiny bit of trust, it's amazing how many doors will be open to you. So do not stay in your office coding and behind the wall. Really, and you guys are here, so that's a big testament. But tell your buddies, get them outside of the office. Make sure that they're really networking, because that'll make a huge difference in how fast you're able to get investment, how fast you're able to find partners and customers. So I really want to focus on that. Just one last point on that. I see a lot of really good businesses, and going back to my earlier problem about the funding, another thing that I found coming back to the side of the fence is there's so many wonderful ideas out there, and a lot of companies that will have great 10, 15, $25 million companies. I can't fund that. And unfortunately, there's a difference between good companies and venture fundable companies. I've got to look for the $250, the $500 million exit. And so while people approach me and say, wow, you've got, this is the greatest thing, I've got revenue and we can get to here really quick. I'm like, wow, that's great. That's awesome. And let me try to find some other ways to get you funded. But just understand, because of who my investors are and what they're requiring from us, it's just, there's a slight gap there. I think, Richard, you had a question that you posted in advance about, do we fund software or hardware? So we certainly do fund both hardware and software, but there are different things that we look for, and it's interesting. On the hardware side, we're very much about the technology superiority. So what's the IP? What's the cost structure? Is the supply chain in place? Are there potential customers we can talk to? And often when we do a hardware deal, we'll have strategic at the table who will be implementing that hardware in their future product line. So we're very stringent about the tech piece. Software is really about execution. How fast can they get to market? Who's buying the product? How do they get to that buyer? How fast is that sales cycle? And what's the asking price? How much can they truly get from each customer? And what did it take? How much did it cost to get that customer? So it's more of a speed and value add to the customer. We'll want to see customer validation, who's bought it, who's using it, versus the hardware again, where hardware will invest likely earlier. If we've got folks who validated the technology, where software, we're going to want to see a lot more milestone delivery and proof points that you know your customer and you're meeting their needs. Does that answer your question?
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions I can answer?
You mentioned that you're looking for a 250 to 500 million exit strategy for companies that you invest in. Is that right?
Yes.
So you would typically invest on an A or B round funding. I'm sorry, I didn't catch the level of funding that you guys typically do.
Yeah, so we started at about 1.5 to, well, 1 to 1.5, but we'll put in 4 to 7 over the life.
Okay.
Some require less, some require more, just depending on the.
And what's the typical length of time that you guys exit? Like, what's the average?
So our energy and power fund, so we run the Army's venture fund, I didn't mention that. So I've got our Arsenal fund, which is about a $70 million fund that I'm actively involved with. We also run the Army's venture fund. Our Army venture fund is an evergreen fund, so it doesn't have that 10-year limit. So we were able to invest in technologies much earlier in stage. What we're seeing, the exits on that fund are in the 8 to 9, 10, 11 time frame. Energy has not been an easy exit space. What we're looking for with this newest fund, we really are trying to identify 3 to 5 years with the expectation that some may hit that, but that'll probably be 6 to 8. But our hope is that we can identify a couple in the 3 to 5 year time frame. And that is a lot of pressure, right? And so that's why we do have to do later deals than we necessarily might like to. And that's pressure from our LPs. So we have to raise money like you have to raise money. And so in 2 or 3 years, I have to start now, but in actually putting my hand out, in about 2 or 3 years, I'm going to have to be asking for dollars. And unless I've proven to my investors that I made a return on their dollars, they're not going to give it to me. So we do have to keep showing return.
And what's the comfortable rate of return that you guys look at, net profit margin-wise for a typical organization?
Yeah, I don't know if we look at it per se like that exactly. I mean, it's more, how much did we invest in? Did we get our, we like a 10 times return in general off of our investment, but certainly it varies.
Staying on the software, your valuation, excellent. How about the deal on the software? What is the difference between the deal that you make on hardware and the deal that you will make on a software?
What do you mean? Equity and how much?
Equity, how much? Because you don't have, you're basically investing in a team.
It's interesting because the deal is often driven by the syndicate and how much strength the company has. So I don't know that we vary our software deals.
Buyout is different.
Yeah, the buyout's different. So on hardware deals, I've seen us do more liquidity preference. So taking more of a less risk. So if there's a small asset buy, we'll get most of our investment back. We tend not to do that on the software side because there really is nothing left. The software company will probably die. Whereas hardware, there might be IP to sell. So we'll ask for a little bit, try to gather a little bit more of that component. But I haven't seen a real difference in strategy on term deals. And I'll be honest, I've been back with this firm now only for a year and a half. So maybe I'm missing something that I haven't seen.
I'm struggling to try and find out what that deal is.
Honestly, what we do, we're very simple. We go to the MVCA term sheet, the standard term sheet that's being used, and we set our terms, but we use that deal sheet. And it's.
But you have to admit that term sheet doesn't. 80% of it fits for a software company. 20% absolutely does not fit.
Yeah, maybe we'll take this conversation offline.
Okay.
But
Well,
definitely dive into
I'm
it
pursuing it because I know there are a lot of software
Yeah.
developers here.
Okay. Yeah, no, it'd be interesting to see what your point of view is.
Yeah, I'm interested to know your viewpoint on intellectual property from the standpoint that it seems like the patent process is so slow, but technology moves so fast. It's like by the time you get your patent, you could have sold your product and moved on to the next technology, and
Yeah, I mean, I honestly care very little about software IP. I mean, that's really, someone will figure out a way around it. What we try to do on the IP side is, again, there's so many ways to get around patents or to do something slightly different or take a whole different approach nobody even thought of to solve a problem. But what we want to make sure is if we've done our homework and we think this company really has what we think is a successful solution, that no one can come in and directly duplicate what they're doing, that they've got strong enough position. And this is more, again, this is on the hardware side, so this is hardcore, tech stuff. We've got optical switch routers for data centers, we've got power conversion devices. So the IP matters, that we want to know that someone's, we've gone through the IP search, we've tried to see really diligently that no one else has this type of technology. And so that's what's important to us, that there's at least some sort of barrier that the company's been able to put in place. And whether it's successful or not, who knows, because the competition's coming from every direction.
so you'd be discouraged from a company, let's say, that had some good technology, but there's just the IP potential is very low.
Yes, because then it becomes an execution play. And so then the team has to completely prove to us that they've got the customer, they can dominate the market, and they're already doing so. So in that case, it's already doing so is critical.
Talking with a lot of angel investors, I'm seeing even in Michigan, especially nationwide, but even in Michigan, that there's a strong Series A crunch in the sense of a lot of companies are getting their seed funding, but then having trouble getting Series A. With you being starting off with Series A, are there things that you can maybe advise a company to do so that they don't run into that, other than getting more funding at the seed level, which is obviously the quick answer? But beyond that, is there things that they can do that makes them more attractive at the Series A so that they don't run into that, okay, I'm almost out of my glide path or flight path, and I need now Series A even faster than I thought?
Yeah, so one of my theories on why this is happening is the state and municipalities and the universities are doing such an incredible job of filling in the gap seed room, almost to an overextent, so that they're funding a lot of things that might not otherwise have gotten funding. That's not necessarily bad, because I think there's a lot of learning and there's a lot of economic development that goes into that. So there's kind of two pressures here. There are probably too many companies hitting Series A, and then the next problem is there's not enough Series A's investors. The article just came out recently, one of the Bloomberg or New York Times, so saying there are only 114 truly active venture funds in the United States who've made a deal in the past 4 months, or they've had a couple qualifications, but folks who truly were actively investing dollars. So the amount of venture funds has gone down from like 1,200 to 500 and some. And again, this other article is saying it's 114 that are truly active. The amount of dollars going into these funds has been really hard to raise funding. So the number of A investors isn't there too. So you've got too many companies coming into the round and not enough investors at the A round, and that's causing a problem. However, what you can do as a seed company, if you've gotten some seed funding, is to really, even if you don't need it for 1.5 years, 2 years, be building relationships with those Series A investors now. I will always talk to any company, really at any stage. I try to be very open as much as possible, but network, tell people what you're doing, say, hey, I'm not looking for money from you right now, but I want to get your feedback. And you'll develop a couple people that you really hit it off with, who you find can offer good advice and are willing to give you that advice because they're interested in what you're doing. And that's probably the best way you can I wouldn't say there's no surety that you're going to hit that A round, but that's probably the best strategy, is building those relationships much earlier than you think you need to.
Is there a balance sheet that has ever scared you away because it was so muddled? And also, could you just expand a little bit more on your thoughts on traction and how important that is, and what kind of traction you'd like to see out of a software company?
Yes, I have been scared away out of a financial software company, actually. Was having great meetings, very interested in what they were doing. Obviously there were some problems, but I was like, wow, this is great. Finally got them to send me their financials. I started going through them, and they had $2 million in employee liability. They had $1 million in debt. They had, it was a crazy, which really shifted my request for financials much faster in the process. Now I typically, if I'm interested, I typically ask for that as my next step. So yeah, never hide that stuff, because it is what it is, and it's better. As an investor, I'd rather somebody say, look, I've got this problem right now on my balance sheet, but here's some strategies we have to address this over the next 2 years, versus me digging through the financials and finding it. Because then I feel that I've been sort of taken, or that they haven't been honest with me. And as I said, I'm Midwest, so I like honesty. In terms of traction, so every software company has their own metrics. So whether it's number of user base, whether it's customers, but what I like to see is, has someone said, I will give you money for this? And I can see that that is not a unique one-time thing. There are a lot of companies who can use an initial base of network to get the first customers, but I want to see that they're able to extend beyond the friends and family network and are truly starting to make sales and have a value proposition. I'll call those customers because I want to see what they have to say. And that's really important. I just did that recently with a company. They hadn't prepped one of the folks very well. And so we walked out of the meeting like, why in the world did this company have us do this reference with their customer? As it happened, the guy just got off from plane from Germany. He wasn't, probably we were the last people we wanted to see. They wound up executing on like a $500,000 deal a couple days later. So that canceled that out, and we're like, okay, they obviously did really like the product. But we do dive pretty deep into what does the customer say at that point, and do they really have a pain? Is there a real pain that this company is solving? Not nice to have, but oh my gosh, I have to have this in my business today.
This question.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say, you're doing due diligence into competitors. Like, how do you approach reaching out to them and saying, like, how do you do that as a VC to not lead them on in the wrong direction that you might be interested in that specific company or technology?
So we tend not to reach out to competitors just to get competitive information. I don't think that's honest.
Right.
But we do have a wealth of information, either from partners that we invest with, our network of entrepreneurs and corporate strategics, as well as companies we've seen before. So, we don't ever send information out. So if somebody sends us information, we don't sign NDAs because we see too many companies of similar types. But when you think about it, we never see enough that could ever be strategically detrimental to a company. So I'm not going into an advanced material company and watching how they make their specific nanotech dendrimer. There's certain. Most technology, there's a lot of know-how, a lot of time. There are a lot of smart people at the table. There's no way we can steal that IP. We don't want to steal that IP. We're investors, right? We just want to try to see, is this the best solution? So what we're more looking for is, okay, what's the landscape out there? We'll go through our venture databases, see who was funded in the space. We'll kind of look through our own database. We use Salesforce. where we track all the companies and deals we've looked at. So we'll say, okay, is there any deals that we've looked at that are similar? We'll ask internally just in case somebody hasn't put something in the system. But yeah, we tend not to, like we won't kind of go around the process and go to a company that we're not interested in, just to get competitive info. That's not our style.
I wasn't far off the mark when I said you could talk for 5 hours. So we do need to draw this to a close. But I'm going to use the power of the clock and ask one more question. I've seen you at a couple of these events with lots of entrepreneurs. Are you getting a lot of companies that have training experience from the smart zones and the incubators? And do you think that the smart zones and incubators are doing a good job of helping the companies, or they're out there but they're not really making an impact as far as what you need companies to be putting together to present to you?
No, I'm seeing a significant improvement in the quality of pitches. And not just the quality of pitches as in the pitch, but what's behind the pitch and the thoughtfulness behind, a lot of the startup incubator stuff right now is really pushing, the customer identification and really, getting out and talking to as many people as possible to validate the model. And I think that's moving a lot of really tech-comfortable people who like to sit at the desk and think of ideas out and understanding their model a little better, a little faster, and able to answer questions that we have better. So I'm seeing, I've seen some companies that before they went into the incubators and when they've come out of incubators, and honestly that they are doing a great job. And one quick thing on that though is the incubators tend to be telling folks, don't talk to people like me until you've got your pitch perfect. I really recommend against that, because by the time you need to talk to me, it's too late. Talk to me early. Build that relationship. Even so kind of like, hey, I saw you, I just want to introduce myself, and maybe in a couple months when I'm a little farther down the line, or I've got something I just wanted to run by you. Sure, I'll take the time. So don't follow that advice, but in general, I think the incubators are doing a really great job around town. Though there might be too many. I'm wondering if we're going to hit this quality level, but so far they've been doing good.
Great.
All right, I'll be around.
Patti, will you be able to hang around for a little bit after? Okay,
yeah.
great. While we wake the computer up, the first person we're going to start with then will be Ben Chutz. Ben's going to talk about Birdhouse. I always ask the same two questions. Tell me something a little bit unique about yourself and something about the business. So Ben is a folk and blues musician in his other life. So that's a little bit different from some of the other boring things some of us do. Something interesting about the business, he's playing hard to get. All he would tell me is it was created to solve a need in our own home and has already done so. I say, can you tell me some more? He says, no. You have to wait to see the presentation. That's
last correspondence was the I didn't get that follow-up question.
So with that as a backdrop, so 5 minutes, and then we'll do 5 minutes of Q&A.
Hey everyone. Can you guys hear me in the back all right?
Yeah. Move to the...
Move over?
You're right, yeah.
Okay. Is there a remote?
Yep.
Cool. Awesome. We're good to go? All right, looks great. All right, hey guys, my name is Ben. Ben Chutz. I raise an 8-year-old with autism. She's 8, she's in the 1st grade. She's the daughter of my partner, Danielle, and she's awesome. Danny and I, go to the ends of the earth to make sure she's thriving. But even so, it's a lot of work, and there are thousands of apps, literally thousands of apps for Brody, for her daughter, and other children with autism. But the resources available to parents are very scarce. There really aren't a lot of great tools. So, A child is diagnosed with autism in the U.S. every 11 minutes. There's 3 million parents running around with who have children with autism. They're literally begging for help. In the 50s, the numbers were 1 in 5,000. Today, the numbers are 1 in 88. It's an increase of over 9,000% in the last 60 years or so. How many, just by show of hands, anyone here have a family member on the autism spectrum? Okay. So autism spectrum disorder is a neurodevelopmental disorder. It affects communication, social interaction, behavior, sensory processing. It's literally the misfiring of neurons in the brain. It costs $60,000 a year on average, to care for a child with autism. It's a $3 million lifetime cost, and it represents about a $60 billion industry. When you look at some bigger numbers like the cost to society, it's up to well over $200 billion annually. There's no medical detection, no cure, no proven method of treatment or intervention, which means that after parents receive the diagnosis for their child, they're literally pushed off the deep end. It's up to the parents entirely to closely monitor their child, ensure they're reaching their highest potential. Getting ahead of myself. Parents ask, though, where do I start? Where do I even begin? What do I do? What do I track? How do I track it? Where do I keep it? How do I organize it? How do I bring my team together? And the most common advice is typically from other parents. And they say get a notebook and a really nice pen, because you're going to be spending a lot of time tracking all different sorts of variables. If you're good, you've got a Microsoft Word document. If you're great, you've got an Excel spreadsheet, but it really isn't good enough. So Birdhouse is a collaborative web and mobile-based autism management tool designed for the parent to share and record all the important information related to their child's care with their team in order to see correlations and patterns in the data, discover what's working and what needs to be changed. So think mint.com meets Basecamp for your child's health. Parents and caregivers input data across a number of behavioral categories: sleep, mood, poop, nutrition, medication, therapies, via the iPhone app, website, you can compare variables against one another, and the user can see trends and correlations over time to figure out really what's working and what's not working. The way we define the competition is really how well it enables the user technologically, and what potential there is to extract insights. So there's a little bit of other competition out there. They're mostly on the social network end of things, or more of the low-tech pen and paper. So there really have been no breakouts. We think we're really positioned very well to establish a stronghold. On the back end of Birdhouse, we're collecting massive amounts of IP on behavioral data on kids with autism around the country. What drugs they're on, how much sleep they're getting, what they're eating. Autism being grossly underfunded, we're essentially crowdsourcing behavioral data collection, which we can license to research teams. So we're getting into predictive analytics for the parent, for research organizations working in the future with us. We've got a number of different revenue models. We've got the SaaS model. Once a parent gets their team on board, not only does it make it more sticky for the user and for the therapists, but they can begin invoicing and billing their clients through the platform as well, which opens up a whole new revenue stream. We got advertising, of course, data licensing. We've got a 90-day. We've got a bunch of features in the pipeline, collaboration support. Organizational sponsorships. We're looking to raise $500,000. We've got a couple of opportunities that we're pursuing in the meantime, but this is kind of what we have on our landscape right now. Possible exits: healthcare IT firms, telemedicine firms, personalized medicine, that kind of thing. I'm just going to wrap up real quick. We've got a great team right now. We're working with really wonderful organizations locally. We've got the support of Friendship Circle, JARC, Chutz at Center, Autism Alliance of Michigan, some really strong players in the local community around here. So that's it. That's what we've got. Find us online. Love to answer any questions.
Great. Questions?
Yes.
Yeah, the rates for autism due to just increased awareness and diagnosis, or is it an actual condition is increased?
Both.
Oh, okay.
Both. Yeah, it's a combination. Certainly, there's a lot to be said about greater awareness of the disorder, better detection, but also it is rising independently of that as well. So yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Is it your mobile app? Is it iPhone, iOS, Android?
Right now it's iOS. We're submitting this week, so it'll be available in I assume a couple weeks. The web app is open to, it's public right now, so you can sign up for an account. And then, yeah. Yes.
How are you dealing with the validity of the data that you're collecting, and how can you be sure that it's correct?
Right, because it's all user.
It's all user driven, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much we can do. What we are doing is quantifying it in a way with the help of, with the oversight of professionals who work in the space to make sure that the type of data, if inputted accurately by the user, is in the format that researchers can use to manipulate and do what they need to do with it. But ultimately, it's it's not done in a clinical setting, but it's par for the course as far as comparing it to the way other health technology applications, consumer-facing, handle their data collection. Everything with the focus on what happens in between the doctor visits. There's only so much you can do, but
So are you moving forward? Are you going to sort of dumb down the UI so that it's idiot-proof, or are you going to introduce some sort of fancy mathematics in order to rectify any possible incorrect data?
Well, that's a tough question to answer. We haven't really come into any issues so far with the users that are actively involved in the website. And until we do, there's not really a big incentive to dig really deeply into that. There are certain things that we can prevent, like logging a happy mood 3 days in the future when it's just impossible. So those types of things, yeah, we're looking at. But for the meantime, no, it's working as intended perfectly. Yes.
Do you have any plans already now integrating with communities of care to develop, essentially a community-based, crowdsourced monitoring and support network?
Yeah, so we are on two levels. On the ground, we're working with organizations and going through their networks to attract new users and get their feedback and hold focus groups and things like that. Yeah, exactly. Friendship Circle was our first supporter, big supporter from the start.
I saw the article on the Jewish.
Oh, cool. Glad. I'm glad. Thanks. But on the digital end, yeah, we're building out a social component to the site, so Birdhouse users can interact with one another, pose questions, give advice, take advice. Yes.
In terms of, like you mentioned, parent receives the initial diagnosis. I'm sure there's different healthcare professionals that are making those diagnoses and then actually treating. Are you partnering with the doctors that are treating as something that they would be recommending?
Yeah, absolutely.
At that stage?
Yeah. So the doctors that we've spoken with, have asked for marketing material, which we're developing right now. RAC cards and things like that to keep in their doctor's offices. Most general care practitioners and they just don't have the resources to be able to, really kind of. They hand off when they get they don't get the diagnosis, but they pass them along to specialists. So Birdhouse is a great stepping stone to that. Yeah.
Have you investigated the HIPAA and ACA consequences of that?
Yeah, we're looking at it right now, and we're getting into certified hosting solutions and making sure that we're all tight on that. Yeah.
How many users do you have, and how much activity per day are you seeing with those users?
So we've got 100 users right now, and yeah, what kind of how we define an active user, we're still figuring out. We're finding that the most value comes from logging in at least several times a week. So we're seeing about a quarter of those users using it with really kind of regularity. But that's going up as we experiment with different types of user engagement strategies, which we're really kind of digging into right now. So the more we stay in touch with them, either through automated means or personal outreach, that kind of stuff. Finding higher levels of engagement. Yeah. All right.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I've been advised to speak a little bit slowly because we're going to change tapes. Jacob Smith will be up next. Jacob loves all things about Detroit and entrepreneurship. His company UpTobr is headquartered downtown at the Madison Theater Building. He brags about his really long 5-minute walk to work from where he lives. He co-founded his first business, Go Green Energy, as a senior at the Ross School of Business at the U of M. In his spare time, he manages online content for a world-renowned humanitarian and serves as an advisory role for a not-for-profit in Ann Arbor. His company is one of the fastest growing tech startups in Detroit. With so many startups, I'd be interested in knowing how you quantify you are one of the fastest when there were like so many growing so quickly. So somebody, and Richard's always my difficult person, you can ask, how do you quantify that? Let me see the numerical data. Okay, we're up on the screen. Just 5 minutes, please.
Just to be clear, I would have said that regardless of if we had. Great. Ready? Hi, everybody. I just want to go ahead and apologize first and foremost.
A little bit more.
I am having some issues speaking due to getting over a cold, so I ask that you forgive my crazy vocal patterns here. But thank you, everybody, for your attention, and I will be talking about UpTobr. UpTobr is the best way to discover and share what is upcoming with the people and organizations that you care about. And dive right in if I can get this to click. This idea kind of came out of something interesting. The CEO, Greg Schwartz, was actually, this was October 2011, he was sitting with a group of friends and he was an avid user of social media, saw that he had a friend of his checked in on Foursquare, and it was a friend that he'd been meaning to connect with. It was right around the corner. It was fantastic. Social networking, it's actually working. This is amazing. It turned out that the check-in was from 3 hours prior, and his friend was long gone. And he turned to his friend, and he was like, well, this is kind of crazy. It doesn't really help to know where someone is right now or where they recently were because it's not actionable information. What if there was something like a future check-in? That would be really cool. So that was kind of the idea that UpTobr was birthed out of. Something that's kind of interesting is when you look at kind of the current social media landscape, there's a lot of attention on the now. That's kind of the most popular space right now with the Foursquares and the Twitters and even the hyper, the highlights and those types of things. Facebook has kind of moved to, where have you been? What have you done with your timeline? And we saw a big opportunity to kind of hit on that future space. That was kind of the original idea that UpTobr came out of. Once they started digging deeper, it became evident that at the same time, the calendar hasn't evolved much, and the discovery of upcoming events is largely a fragmented space. Where do we go to find upcoming events? Go to a ton of different websites, most people, or you might talk to a bunch of different people, go to a lot of different places, receive a bunch of different emails. On the social side, you might call and text and email with your friends. And again, at the same time, the calendar hasn't evolved much. Basically, the modern calendar, the digital calendar, it's moved from paper to digital to in your pocket, but from a functionality standpoint, it's basically a paper calendar in your pocket that you can invite people, you might be able to do invites and some different reminders and things, but from a functional standpoint, there's not much that has been innovated on that space. And I mean, even some organizations are still using paper calendars, and it's really just an outdated. So basically, UpTobr was the solution to these issues that I'm describing, and hopefully this will come back up in a minute here. But basically, UpTobr originally launched as a mobile app. It was an application for the iPhone. Today, UpTobr exists as both an iPhone and an Android application. It's completely free. I highly recommend everybody check it out. What you're talking about, the solution is combining your calendar. UpTobr syncs directly with your phone's native calendar. So any calendar that you have synced with your phone will be syncing directly with UpTobr. You're connecting with people that you care about, friends, close associates that you actually care what they have upcoming. A lot of times I get the question, how is this different than Facebook events? Your Facebook network is kind of anyone that you've ever met once. Your UpTobr network is really this close network of people that you really want to be sharing. So these are the people that you text if you found out about an event, or people that would text you. And at the same time, we're combining that with public event streams. And public event streams are organizations' calendars that they'd be sharing on the network, and it's not just organization calendars, it's also upcoming fashion releases. Any information that has upcoming dates, we're trying to organize that information, put it all in one place, so that it's not such a fragmented state. So again, we started this out with the iPhone app. That's a significantly blurry image here, but that's okay. A lot of basic social features, but really what we're moving towards is the calendar replacement component of that. I'm going to move a little quicker. On the public stream side, we've got over 4,000 public event streams in the network, and we recently opened the platform so that any business or organization can actually share events on the platform, which is really exciting for us. It became evident pretty quickly that we wanted to move beyond just the mobile side thing, because we saw a really big opportunity in another place where organizations communicate upcoming events, which is their website. We started digging deeper and realized that there aren't a lot of good kind of non-custom solutions for communicating events on individual websites. So we're in the process currently of developing a very clean, highly socially enabled website calendar solution, and this will be our first monetization channel, being released in about a month. The Detroit Lions are one of our initial launch partners. And I apologize that I didn't get to quite as much stuff planning out, but we had some technical issues. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
You're saying the first is that how you're planning on monetizing the site in terms of charging companies to develop a calendar for them, or walk me through that?
So I've just got three basic monetization channels that we're pretty excited about. The first is pretty basic, which is affiliate fees through ticket sales. So people buying tickets through the platform, there would be affiliate fees there. The website calendar side is our initial monetization channel, which there's going to be a free version of that website calendar. There's also going to be various tiers of premium calendars that we have available, and that is going to be a revenue generator, as well as a driver of traffic to the platform. And then kind of the more exciting long-term vision is we are collecting lots of information about communicated intent from our users. Lots of people sharing what they're planning on doing and where in the future. And that information is very valuable marketing insight that we're going to be generating insight from and actually targeting marketing messages to. If somebody communicates that they're going to be at the Lions game next Friday, we'd like to put a message in front of them, say from a local bar, about a happy hour that's happening the hour before the game. So being able to leverage that type of information is extraordinarily important. And on the website as well, we've got, for example, the Detroit Lions, who are really excited about that idea of people opting into an event and receiving information about what else is going on around the game. And it's an opportunity to partner with them, on that side as well.
Does your platform filter out some of this information so that we don't, suffer from, information overload like we do with these other social gizmos?
We take it kind of the other way around. So instead of encouraging people to connect with anyone and everyone and giving you all the information at once, which is, I suppose, what the internet does, kind of, what we're trying to do is kind of the flip side of that. So we're really strongly encouraging people not to connect with everybody. We want you to connect with your close friends, family, coworkers, the people that you really want to receive that information from. On an event-by-event basis, you're sharing that information. It's like a Google Calendar. It's like a binary. You have to share all or nothing. With UpTobr, per event, you're choosing which information to share with whom, similar to, say, like a Google Circles. You can bucket your friends into various categories. So, for example, the DNewTech, that might only be relevant to my coworkers. I'll share that just with my coworkers and my tech friends in Detroit, as opposed to all my friends, something like that. And you're opting in to follow each individual public stream. So it's not as though all of the information is on the channel. I'm following the Detroit Tigers, the Detroit Pistons, U of M basketball, Jewish holidays. I'm following things that are particularly relevant to me as an individual, and somebody else might be following fashion releases, etc.
Shared calendars have been around for quite a while.
Yeah.
What's your difference here? I'm not seeing it. I can do the same thing that your product is doing by going to a service at this point and just telling my friends, hey, let's just share this calendar together.
What kind of service are you describing? I'd like to answer your question directly.
Google is offering shared calendars. that you can sit there and tell your friends, let's establish a shared calendar. Microsoft is doing the same thing.
Right, so that's what I was describing here. It's binary calendar sharing. So it's an all or nothing type of sharing. So you're sharing your entire calendar. So I
can only share specific events. It's a shared calendar between a whole bunch of people.
You're talking about invites? Calendar invite? You can share a full calendar as kind of an all or nothing. It's not an event to event basis. So for example, we're addressing the issue of, say, I discover that there's a Tigers game next Tuesday, comes up in my UpTobr feed, whereas if I normally would have been going to Tigers.com, discovering that, and then text messaging my friends, or perhaps adding it to a shared Google calendar. We're bringing that all into one function, making it extraordinarily simple to share a calendar.
Okay.
If you're very tech savvy, you could tie in ICS feeds, and there's probably a lot of things you could do. We're making it very simple and for the common man to be able to handle it.
Product is Outlook, and there's shared calendar. Okay, and I can share specific events, not all my schedule, but certain parts of it at any given point in time. And then I open it up to those people who might be interested. So I'm not certain on your distinction here. I'm trying to find your distinction.
Okay. I'm not familiar with that type of sharing on an Outlook and a Google Calendar, so I would love to hear in more detail how you're going about doing that, because I'm not familiar with that type of sharing on those platforms.
Let's grab a couple more questions in the time that we have. Let me ask one real quickly. What is your ask? What are you looking for?
We're looking to build community. So we actually just raised a $1.5 million round from Detroit Venture Partners, and we're actually raising a little bit more money on top of that right now. So we are looking to build community in not just Detroit, but beyond. I'm looking for ideas. I'm looking for partners. We've got some major professional sports teams that are hopping on board, as you saw with the Detroit Lions here, and a few others that aren't quite official. And we've got some really exciting things in the pipeline. I'm looking for any and all partnerships, and a very important aspect of that is the tech community in Detroit. We're looking to make this thing work in our backyard. We're based in the Madison building, and we want to make this thing work. I'm looking for partners.
How large is your user base? So is it fastest growing? How big is the base?
Yep, we've got about 150,000 registered users. Ben touched on this kind of issue of active. How do you define an active user? And that's kind of a question that we're exploring at this point as well. We've got about 15% of our user base is kind of very active. We've got like a really rich community that's very actively using the program, and then some people that are kind of using it over time a little bit type of deal. But we've got a healthy kind of registered user base that we're building off of and encouraging them, re-engaging. The public stream component of this was added in only mid last year, and we've seen a lot of added, as that content is built out, a lot of additional engagement out of our existing users. So we're really excited to continue building that content and continue to drive additional engagement from that.
Question right here. Appreciate it. Got a hand up.
What's the demo? Like, I think about my life, it's really boring. Kids' soccer games and birthday parties and stuff. So what is there a typical demo you're seeing in terms of age and?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting question. We're experimenting kind of with two demographics right now that we're excited about. It's kind of the young professional demographic, so kind of fresh out of school, young professionals in the city. And then we're kind of experimenting with young families as well. So with young families, you're talking about kind of someone who's going to be following their yoga studio, their daughter's preschool, perhaps some local businesses, that type of thing. On the college side, you're talking about being able to follow local bars and sports teams and college resources. We're doing a lot of work at U of M right now, experimenting with that. We've gotten really good traction from the Ann Arbor community at large, but specifically from the student population at the university. And kind of beyond that, young professionals in Detroit as well.
Great. Thank you. Next up, will be Thomas Reinke. Thomas has been a mechanical engineer for more than 10 years now, and that career prepared him for what he also loves to do, which is stand-up comedy. But they're going together somehow. He'll explain that, I'm sure. Prior to starting a self-reliant energy company, he renovated a 165-year-old colonial home and retrofitted with state-of-the-art energy-conserving heating, and cooling systems, and then adapted those systems to wind, solar, biomass, and other renewable energy equipment. So it sounds like a really interesting discussion. So, Thomas, take it away.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Patti. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Jacob. Might be to come back for follow-up. Yeah, mechanical engineer for 10 years. This is normally a half-hour presentation. I'm going to zip right through it as fast as I can, so hold your questions or if you have some information. So, yeah, it got me started. We talked about how I got into renewable energy. I have, in my heart, I feel that low-income persons are suffering daily because of the cost of their energy is going up and up. My mission or the goal is to help lower-income families be able to adapt to some of this equipment. But and I'm finding that we need to start at the top. The wealthier people can invest in it, and hopefully, in long term, the cost of the equipment will come down because of research and development and mass production here in the United States. Can we create jobs in Michigan that can be outsourced? Can residents significantly reduce their utility costs? Do you want to play an active role in reducing your carbon footprint? Will we soon see renewable energy equipment at Home Depot? Lowe's is offering it. Menards is offering some renewable energy equipment. But that's been within the last couple of, at least the last year. As a responsible citizen and as a homeowner, you should be definitely consider your options for renewable energy. With advancing technology today, there are even more options for renewable energy systems that you can
have for residential use. Although these systems have been in use since the beginning of the 20th century, the efficiency of these systems has been on the rise for the past decades. Nowadays, renewable energy systems are efficient and their prices are getting lower every day with technological advancements, so it's not too expensive to invest in some of the equipment. Places that an average homeowner can go to get some information. There are a number of websites available so that average Joe, you and I, can go to some of these websites and find out how you can get involved. I'll give you that page if you want, but these questions, how cost effective is home projects, or how can they get involved with utility costs? Insulate ductwork pipes, weather strip doors, caulking, reglazing, conserving energy, leaking faucets, energy efficient lighting, using energy efficient appliances, energy conservation, and eliminating vampire power in our homes, which is everything that's plugged in, that's not even turned on, and is still using energy. That's what we call vampire power. What is renewable energy? It's produced from wind, mechanical and electrical, sun, hydro, biomass, or other types of fuel. Fossil fuel is coal, natural gas, coal, shale, clean coal, gasoline, fuel, and diesel. Those are all. What are the benefits of renewable energy? Money spent on renewable energy tends to remain in the community, creating jobs and fueling local economies. The use of this equipment will lessen our dependence on foreign oil, promote healthier air and water, reduce our home and business utility operating costs, protect wildlife, create a future for our children and grandchildren, encourage a lifestyle of conservation, create good paying jobs that cannot be outsourced, and this is the right thing to do. How do we know if there's enough sun and power to power our business? According to National Renewable Energy Laboratory in Michigan, we get 2 to 3 hours of direct sunlight per day. Some of the equipment doesn't need direct sunlight anymore, as it once did because of the efficiency improvements. On cloudy days, I have solar equipment that generates 140-degree temperature heating domestic hot water. Will you need permits? That depends on the county that you're living in. 3 types of residential solar applications: passive, heats panels or multiple panels to heat space heating. Active or thermal is for domestic hot water heating. Photovoltaic is for creating electricity. How do wind turbines work? Generally a fan to turn a generator to create electricity. Is there enough wind? According to National Renewable Energy Laboratory, 13.4 mile-an-hour wind speed. Some of the equipment that's available today, horizontal axis wind turbines, vertical axis wind turbines, can create energy at a 3 to 5 mile-an-hour wind speed. Why is conventional electricity according to the EPA, 1/3 of our nation's nitrogen oxide emissions, smog, 1/3 of the nation's carbon dioxide emissions, global warming, and 1/3 of nation's sulfide dioxide are created from burning coal. If the equipment fails, who do you call? Utility companies. If the equipment should fail, you still have tied to the grid or the other sources of energy that you currently use.
How does your home continue to heat and create electricity in gray, unlit conditions? As I mentioned earlier, direct sunlight or lots of wind is not always required to operate some of this equipment. And I talked to somebody earlier, well, we can't have solar, we can't have wind, there's too many trees. There are other options. Insulating the building so that you can reduce your energy consumption, biomass burning equipment that can burn corn, wood chips, pellets, cherry pits, walnut shells. Okay. Let's go through. I'll show you some of the photographs of some of the equipment and how easy the installation is. Panels on the roof, the tanks in the bottom, keep the water up at the top, bring it down to into the tank. It's a supplement that preheats the water prior to going into the existing storage tank. Other types of equipment, batch heating systems, solar hot water heating systems can be adapted not only for domestic hot water, but to our forced air furnaces as well. Different types of heat exchangers.
Well, we're going to go ahead and stop there and let the audience ask some questions.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to start with the first question. What's your ask? What are you looking for?
You know, I'm not a business-minded guy like most of you, so sometimes I don't know. I'm looking to move the company to the next level. I don't even know how to do that. I'm a mechanical engineer. I don't know anything about business, but it was my heart that drove me to starting this company, not only to reduce the energy consumption at my own home, because I'm cheap, but to help others do the same thing. In the back.
In like a simple, real like 10, 15 seconds, what exactly does your company do? Is it supplying the products in the install, or is it the education? I'm struggling to figure out exactly what your company does.
Yes, you do the installs, the consultation, showing people what's the first thing that they can possibly do. First, we insulate the building so that we prepare it so that less energy is being used, and then we take steps to invest in equipment that's going to suit them. Every building is different.
So you would classify your business as a service, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, if it's a service, then that's what's confusing about your presentation, is that you had pictures of models, and it looked as if you were inventing something. But you're not. You're just simply...
It was educational.
I understand. So
this particular presentation not as educational, because I don't know anything about pitching to investors. This is an educational presentation to show people what is available.
So your service is your expertise in this area?
Yes. And installation of the equipment. Very small company, only 3 men. Yes.
Are you setting this up as a profit or nonprofit?
This is it started out as a gut feeling of to start a business, to
Like a social entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Social.
Well, you might explore both avenues, because you may have a better opportunity in a nonprofit, just given what it sounds like you want to do.
And thank you for that, because again, not being a business person, the reason I came here was to learn from all of you as to how to get the business moving. It's something that I want to do, and it's something that we need to do. Yes.
How reliant are you? How reliant are you on subsidy?
No subsidy, no capital, no. I haven't borrowed any money.
But I mean, how reliant is you have to get the equipment from somewhere. Your customers have to get the equipment from somewhere. How reliant is that affordability of that equipment and your service? How much of that relies on subsidy, and how does your business change if that subsidy goes away?
Subsidy meaning incentive from the state or federal government.
Yes, sir.
30% federal government is across the board. Very little state subsidy is available other than through the utility companies. Consumers Power now has but very little is done from subsidy.
So are these tax credits? Are these grants?
Tax credit.
So then it begs the question, how do you get low-income people tax credits?
I'm looking. Any way that I possibly can. There was incentives available back in the early 80s when I was doing home insulation and weatherization of lower income homes in the Detroit area. I'm a native Detroiter.
I think that you would be wise to follow Mary's, the lovely woman in the blue. Her her suggestion that we should look at this as a nonprofit, and I think that it would be actually really cool if you use this as maybe a teaching tool. You know, teach kids practical mechanical applications with renewable energy in the inner city. I mean, I give you $100.
Thank you.
Yes, I heard a statistic somewhere. I don't know the exact numbers, but it was something to the effect was like there's some area where, like the Sahara Desert, we could put solar photovoltaics there and supply power for the whole world or something like that. So have you considered like a business model of renting like rooftop space and maybe doing your own power company and selling the electric power that way, or any other business models?
No, I haven't done that at a large utility scale. Again, my part is to help homeowners create power and hot water and heat on their own buildings, not relying. Because there's a lot of energy lost in the transformation of put up a big wind turbine and 50% of it is lost through the power lines going through. Do it at the location where the power is needed. In the back, yes.
I don't like electricity bills, so I think it's pretty cool. But how many customers do you currently have? And me as a homeowner, A through Z, what would it cost me from your consulting to your installing of the equipment? Just a typical home. You know, whatever. I know every home's different.
$5 grand for a water heating system, 10 grand for a small PV system. Air heating systems are significantly less, $2,000 to $3,000. Average.
How many current customers do you have?
400.
Okay. Thank you.
Really small. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you. Next up will be Barak. Barak is a recent U of M alumnus and was recently accepted into their Business Accelerator Tech Art. A little bit of background. Before that, he worked for a hedge fund, Marco Polo Pure Asset Management in Hong Kong, specializing in China-related securities. So that'll be an interesting story to see how all of those fit together. Barak.
Thank you, Milton. I appreciate it. My name is Barak, like you said. First and foremost, I would like to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to present in front of you guys and pitch my practice. Like Thomas said, I'm going to have to zip through this. I'm not used to having a 5-minute presentation. But nonetheless, my name is Barak Leibovitz. I'm the founder and CEO of Seatside Service. I came up with the concept when I was at a baseball game last summer. And the idea of it was I was sitting in my seat and the sun was beaming down on me. The bases were loaded. And I couldn't find a guy to give me a drink. And I was like, what's the deal here? The vendors aren't even coming into my section. So I decided Seatside Service, we'll stand back here. I think it's a little better. Seatside Service solves this problem. Oh my goodness. I want time back on. All right, so Seatside Service solves this problem. We developed a platform for communication between venues and consumers. And more specifically, we're part of a greater solution of consumer engagement at stadiums. We think that there's a lot of opportunity for people who want to push sales, for venues to be able to handle their inventory better and do supply chain logistics in a more efficient manner. And I came out with this idea and I was like, I'm a genius. I'd never heard of anybody doing this before, okay? And the more I researched it, I was like, okay, well, I'm not alone in this marketplace. There are other people that are in this marketplace that are doing something similar, but at the same time, I think that this is validation. No one's doing it as much as, in the same regards that we're doing it. We're focusing on consumer engagement, which a lot of these competitors are focusing on convenience, but we think that our platform is a lot better. So basically on the mobile vending side of things, this is the value proposition chain. On the consumer thing, we know that if we can increase the convenience, we can decrease the hassle, we can elevate the experience. The more people that we started talking to, because we built this for a consumer, because I built it for myself, realistically, I realized that there are other people that are going to be using this application that I need to account for. So a lot of these vendors work on commission, and that's a supply chain management play. If we can direct them to where the supply is, we can increase our efficiency, we can increase their commissions, we can provide our workers incentive to make those sales. And then from a stadium's perspective, If we can go cashless, it goes immediately. We can decrease the theft that's happening inside the stadium, and we can increase the revenues that the stadiums are posting. Our focus is on creating a better experience at the entertainment venue, and if we can create a better experience, we know that we're going to have higher average game attendance, and that's going to mean higher average, ticket sales and more revenues for the venues and the vendors. So I know big data analytics is a term that's thrown out a lot in the tech industry world, but what our play is that we believe our competitive advantage lies in the ability to provide venues and vendors with smarter and better decision-making tools to actually handle their inventory better and handle their supply chain management better, and know that not to have 10,000 hot dogs in the 7th inning stretch. So this is basically the purpose of this slide, is to demonstrate to you the application. We're submitting in the next couple weeks, and we'll be waiting for an approval status. I'm going out to New York City this weekend to pitch, and I'm going out to Boston Tech Stars to pitch. But the idea of this slide is that we built a real product. It's tangible. And the takeaway of this is the back end. This is how the POS system will be seen on basically the venue or the vendor's side. And the idea of this slide is that it's totally integrated. Ours is a plug-and-play solution. A lot of the competitors built out their own hardware. And we realized after talking to venues that they already spent millions of dollars in their POS systems. So if we can create a solution that's a plug-and-play, then we win. So that's what we decided to do. And we have a couple partnership with a couple people that are helping us build out these universal APIs. This is just a basic breakdown of the Comerica Park financial projections that I ran. There's average game attendance of 74%. Gives us 30,000 people. U.S. smartphone penetration right now is around 63%, so we get 19,000. All of the people that are coming to the smartphone all the people who are coming to the venue with smartphones, 6,500 are making mobile purchases with those smartphones. So we believe that 1 out of every 5 people that are coming to the baseball game that have a smartphone are going to be early adopters, and that's where we get our 20% market penetration. 1,300 transactions, $2,600 roughly per game, 81 home games, because you're only making money when you're servicing at the home games, not out of the way. And then on just transactions alone, 200,000. And we think that that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's not increasing the ticket sales. It's not increasing the brand status. It's not selling more merchandise. It's not pushing more sales through notifications and things of that nature. So we think that there's a lot of other ways of monetizing. This is just the most direct way of doing it. I admit I'm a young entrepreneur. I don't have that much experience in this space. This is my first tech company, but I'm very proud of the team that I was able to build, and I believe in the product that we've already developed. Judy, who's acting as our CTO, she's had a decade of experience working out in Silicon Valley. She also has exited 2 successful startups out in San Francisco, and now she's acting as our CTO. Neil, who's with me today, is in the front row. He's an award-winning designer. He works closely with Nike, and he works closely with Jordan, and he's seen his actual designs come into the marketplace, and he's seen the fruits of his labor, so to speak. And then Sam Lights, he's a close friend of mine from high school, and his connections with professional teams and venues is very deep, so it's intimate. And he's been able to help us in that. My ask is that basically we're always looking to grow our team, and we're looking at closing on a first round of funding this summer. And if you guys know anybody that's in the entertainment aspect or entertainment field with relationships or interactions with venues or stadium owners or vendors, we would love to follow up with them and get some feedback from them. So at this point, I'm going to open it up for questions from the audience. Yes, sir.
Who's your paying customer?
The consumer is the paying customer. I mean,
so the person like you.
Like you at the game, we make money per transaction. So we have a transaction fee on it. It comes into the company. And basically, once this becomes a status quo, we believe that we'll be actually able to charge a subscription for having this service. If Joe Schmo Stadium from Idaho wants to implement this, we'll be able to make money off a subscription from them and make money off the transactions. Does that answer your question?
Part of it, yeah.
So you have to sell the vendor first before you can get to the consumer, right?
Right. We're working on our partnerships right now.
Okay, so how many vendors are there across, that service stadiums? Is it controlled by a number?
There's Delaware North Companies, which does Comerica Park. There's Levi's Restaurants that does United Center, and then also does a Ford Field.
Is it a relatively few number that control?
I would say it
most of
doesn't, but like it's an international platform. We have a lot of good partnerships or good relationships with these companies that we're kind of buttering up right now, and then we're going to be like, hey, let's play ball. We've done the homework and did all the research for you guys. But at the end of the day, the interesting thing is I came to Comerica Park and I kind of left my business cards in some cup holders, and I got like this guy calling me up. He's like, oh, this is a great idea. There's nothing, and I came to this like meeting with this guy. He's like, hey, I'm drinking, come meet me. I come to Comerica Park. I'm sitting there. There's a guy, security comes up to me. He's like, what are you doing at my park? And they come and sit me down at a table, and they thought I was already monetizing because I can actually guerrilla this. If I just launch this and I have people inside the park actually, going and fostering those orders, minded that it's not the most honest or legal, for that matter, business platform to kind of launch off of, there's nothing that's stopping me from actually fulfilling these orders.
Good question. So if your customers are people attending the game, Comerica Park, the land of the $10 beer. So theoretically, I'm now spending $2 on top of the $10 I'm already spending for a beer to use your app on the assumption that a vendor is not in my particular area exactly when I want them. Is that the play?
Well, it's not just, yes, but we're also expecting that you paid like close to $80 for your seats. It's a good game. You're not just going to order a beer, you're going to order a beer. Your wife's going to order a beer. You're going to get a hot dog. You're already at $30 right there, so what's another $2 convenience fee? I mean, we've done the customer due diligence process where we've interviewed people and we're like, hey, does $2 seem unreasonable? And from the most part, we've gotten like pretty good feedback. $1 to $2 is not unreasonable, but I mean, I can show you, I'll follow up with you later and show you all like we have videos and stuff like that.
No, the only reason why I was asking, I mean, again, if you've done that, you've done that. The only reason why I was asking is that it seems like who benefits most out of this, just my own thoughts, are not exactly the individual customer. I mean, I benefit from being able to use it by getting a vendor, but it's the vendor who now, because I didn't bring cash with me, I could potentially now get the items that I need, a beer, hot dog, whatever, instantly, and not to mention I could spend more because now I don't have to shell out cash that I didn't bring. So it seems to me if the vendors were paying for it and the user now was able to do it for free, it now drives up their revenue in terms of money that they may not have gotten before because I didn't bring cash or because I'm not, interested in, trying to go out to get the dollar, the beer or whatever at that given point in time. I just was asking. That's why.
No, yeah. We're trying to do transaction.
Okay.
What did you learn from that interaction with the Comerica dude?
That we're in the right space. They're definitely thinking about converting over to a system like this. There are people, when I show you that sort of competitor's landmark or landscape, we know that we're on the right track of doing this, and somebody's going to come and do this correctly. It's who's going to come to the marketplace and become the industry leader and show people how it's done. And at the end of the day, they're already thinking about different ways to optimize it, but they're not in their supply chain management. They're not a tech company. They don't have resources to fund that kind of research.
So they're a prospective customer of your product.
Exactly, yes.
Okay, which is different from what I asked you before.
Yes. You asked me, I didn't know if you were asking about the consumer, as a consumer purchasing it, but we need to have a vendor or a concessionaire come on board and then allow us to go through the stadium channels.
You may have some barriers.
We've experienced some, but that's why I've had good relationships.
And you need to learn from those, is what I'm trying to also get.
All right, we'll follow up. Next question.
And I just want to hear your thought process as to why you decided on the individual consumer as your revenue point rather than the vendor.
Because if we can increase the individual consumer's experience, we can increase the average attendance at the games, and then we can increase the bottom line revenue for vendors and venues. So that's that idea.
What's the value proposition for the $2 then?
You don't have to get up from your seat to have your order be delivered to you. Like basically, you don't have to leave your game that you paid the big bucks to see, and you can sit there and have the food delivered right to your seat. That's the value proposition. We're trying to increase your convenience.
I just heard 3 people say the same thing that was going through my mind. It's not having to stand in line.
Stand in lines, yeah.
If no one wants to get up out of their seat, miss the home run, and you get up out of your seat and there are 45 people standing there. We need to break here.
Yeah,
This is
I'll
great.
follow
Thank
up
you
with
very much.
everybody else who has individual questions.
And finally, we're up talk to Dan Kerbel. Dan is from Costa Rica. He studied econometrics at MSU, so we keep bouncing between our U of M's and our MSUs. He taught himself how to code for a year and a half, and ended up building and designing a Spartan app, Guidesmob's first mobile application. The purpose behind it is student orientation is great to learn about where the bathrooms are in the different buildings, but it does nothing to show you where the things are in the university environment. And Dan's going to solve that. So Dan, 5 minutes.
Okay. We don't show you where the bathrooms are, but we show you where there's other stuff. Let's see if this works. Okay, well, this works for mine. So, out of the way. All right, well, hi everyone. My name is Dan Kerbel, and I'm the founder and CEO of Guidesmob. At Guidesmob, we create college town guides that help students discover and experience college life. Basically, these apps for iPhone and Android are everything a student needs living in a college town. So I was an international student, like Milton said, and when I got there, I didn't know anyone. I didn't know where anything was. And I realized that most students are in a similar situation because most of us are from at least a different city. So we're all lost, we're all new, but there are little things that we discover along the way that have a huge impact on our college experience. So I decided to gather all these things and put them into one resource, one device, the smartphone. Now all of our apps are unique to a campus, but share some common core features like food, our most popular section in the app. We display cafeteria menus, restaurant profiles. We're building an offers page to advertise local deals. And we're incorporating food ordering within the app where we'll get a commission off every order. We help students get around with bus schedules, taxis, campus shuttles, and this summer we're reaching out to Zipcar. We have things like places where to find a dentist or a dry cleaner, custom maps, events on and around campus, and everything nightlife. So our first app was the Spartan app for Michigan State. We launched August 28th this past fall, and since then we've reached over 10,400 users, which is about 75% of the iPhone market at the university. We're getting 3,000 unique visitors a day and about 400,000 page views a month. We did this with less than $1,000 in marketing and advertising. Now keep in mind these numbers are for the current version of the app and iPhone only. Once we release Spartan App 2.0 with its new features and Android, which is in private beta today, we'll get to more than double our user base and triple our usage. I guess that's the end of the clip now. So this is the first look at Spartan App 2.0. We just started redesigning the app, but we're making sure that we stay true to two things. Our interface is clean and we display only the information that students are actively seeking out. So one of our competitors are naturally the official university apps, but because of policy and liability issues, they can't display anything off campus, which is what students are really looking for. We compete against Yelp, Foursquare, Yellow Pages. But when you navigate these apps, you'll notice there's a lot of clutter, a lot of noise, and irrelevant information. These apps are simply not built for students. In fact, while less than 10% of all of their users are college students, over 90% of our users are college students. No one is capturing the college student, which leads us to a few opportunities like the offers page. We'll have a featured offer that's in your face, high exposure. A shout out offer where when you redeem an offer, you automatically post a Facebook shout out for the business. And finally, the push offer. Users will be able to subscribe to their favorite restaurants, and restaurants will be able to push their offers to their subscribers. Now, anytime an offer is unlocked in the app, we generate a coupon on Passbook. And because these coupons are time and location based, the next time that you walk into the business, or even just walk in front of it, Passbook will remind you that you have a special. One of the biggest opportunities we have is a sponsorship deal, an exclusive advertising deal with a national chain. We're going to Buffalo Wild Wings, Domino's Pizza, Little Caesars, and Hungry Howie's, and we're offering them logo placements and watermarks. Banner ads. Now, banner ads are usually not very attractive because no one clicks on them. The average click-through rate is less than 1%. But with the Spartan app, the average click-through rate is actually over 41%. In addition, we're offering a word from a sponsor or a push notification, in-app branding so they always stand out. We're promoting them on social media and offering them special pricing and advertising. So we're hitting a few milestones this year. In terms of development, we want to release the offers page and start generating some revenue. We're building a new dynamic bus section that automatically pulls the bus schedules from any bus company for any app. But more importantly, we're launching 3 new campuses this fall. University of Michigan, Ohio State University, and we've licensed our first app for a third-party, Central Michigan University. And finally, we want to plug in a sponsor into our network of apps by the end of October. The really cool thing about our platform is how scalable it is. At the click of a button, we can create a duplicate of any of our apps. So all we have to do to launch a new campus is rebrand and switch the backend. We've learned that our college town guides are also perfect for small to mid-sized cities. And so in 2014, we're launching and testing our first city app, Guides Map Detroit. We're seeking $325,000, which will mainly go into further developing the platform and product and expanding to the rest of the Big Ten with a couple of key universities in other conferences. So to summarize this presentation, GuidesMod is the best solution for this lack of resources that students have today. It's a snooze, just 10 seconds. It's a highly scalable business across multiple verticals. And finally, the network of apps that we're creating allows us to easily plug in a national advertiser and start generating significant revenue very quickly. Thank you.
5 minutes for Q&A, and please tell everyone you're going to double the price you charge to Ohio State. Go ahead.
I'm from Michigan State. I'm from Costa Rica, okay?
First off, terrific presentation. Very, very fluid. I thought it was an unbelievable presentation.
Usually 8 minutes, but I had to.
My question is in terms of university adoption, like in terms of obviously you went to Michigan State, I'm guessing because you had some kind of ties there, easy to kind of get better traction.
Yeah.
How are you finding in terms of, like, are there any other universities outside of Michigan State right now that you are in? So what is your strategy for getting the immense growth that you have in terms of in a university, like for instance, if you're not on that university campus, how do you get the student to adopt using that as opposed to something else?
So for the Spartan app, I graduated in 2010, and we launched just this past fall. So all my friends pretty much are gone. I do have my brother, but he's not as social as I am, and so he told his friends. But basically what we did is, first we passed out flyers. For $300, we printed 4,000, 5,000 flyers, and we got 4,000 downloads in a week. I mean, people just started talking about it, and it was all over social media. The state news picked it up, and after that we did a $600 flyer campaign, and that got the rest of the downloads. And people we stopped marketing. We don't tell anyone about it. I never tell people I made it. I just go there and use it and see other people using and talking about it. And so what we're doing is, for marketing, there's 2 stages. First is a launch stage. We just go and explode. And so we do flyer campaigns, social media campaigns. We didn't really have a marketing budget for this one, and that's why we're raising money, because we want to make sure that we launch these campuses correctly. But then the second stage is the sustainability. So every year we have seniors graduating, freshmen coming in. How do we reach them? Well, we are going to the university, departments in the universities like the International Studies program, and we're telling them, hey, we're a great tool, a free tool for your students. Can you help us spread the word? And all of them have been very open. So International Studies at Michigan State wants all international students to download the app before they even come to the country, because it's such a useful tool. Eat at State, they handle all the culinary cafeteria menus and everything. They're helping with social media and all of that. I see you have another.
What's your projected cost to roll out to a university? I mean, I know you said how scalable it is to go.
And that includes a brand rep. So we're going to have a brand rep at every school that we're going to be hiring throughout the summer, so that we can learn what's unique about the campus. Because we're not like Yelp. We don't just go and throw information. We actually want to learn what the campus is like, because there are unique things to every single campus. Yeah.
When you said you licensed your first app to a third party in Central Michigan, you're saying you're allowing other entrepreneurs to take that territory and kind of franchise it?
Yeah, so what we did is, that was actually 1 month after launch. A former football player from Central came to me and said, I love the Spartan app, I want to take it to Central. And so I said, well, I love the idea that you're going to give me money for something so simple, because I could just click a button and you have an app. And I did need the money because we're running out of the seed money. And so that's not really our business model. A lot is about to change with a meeting tomorrow morning, and that might become a business model. But if you are interested in licensing, then definitely let me know. There might be something we could work out.
How do I think you touched on it a little bit, but how do you get your data into your phone? How fast into your application? How fast do you get your data into your application? And have you ever considered maybe using your application to parlay some more serious information like where professors like to hang out and drink, or what time they show up to the gym.
Yeah, so for like what time you can go to the gym? Is that your last question?
What time professors show up to the gym? I mean, I had a friend who was not necessarily the best student, but he got a sweet internship because he made friends with the professor.
I really have no idea how to figure out what professors are doing. I never really, I don't know, I have no idea about that part. But the information for the Michigan State, I had to put them in manually, but that's not how you scale. You can't scale that, right? And so what we're doing is we're allowing, we've actually partnered with Orderin. Orderin is the future of online food ordering in both mobile and web. And so they're going to be taking care of the technology and support when it comes to ordering food within our apps. And so when we get restaurants to sign up with Orderin, they can change their address, their hours, telephone number, menu, everything, and it's all reflected in the app. And we're also going to have a platform for the people that are not in Orderin, and shops, they don't have menus and stuff like that. They're just going to get on our platform and update it. And if they don't get on it, then we have a brand rip that will keep it updated. Can we hit snooze one more time?
You have one more.
Actually, I saw your hand.
Actually, I have two questions. One is, why don't do you have like some kind of crowd input from the actual student body, like giving in information? And also, is that information I get, for example, a restaurant, is that going to be relevant to me, or is that just somebody who paid for that and that's what the information I'm getting?
Okay, so the first question, are we getting any information?
Yeah, from the students, can they input this? Does your platform allow them to input any of this information, so you don't have to do it all?
Yeah, we are going to allow certain things. So the biggest pain in my neck is taking the pictures of the business, right? Our profile is very nice and it has a picture of the business. And so what we're doing is, instead of me having to go and take a picture and then go upload it, you can just go to the app, and if it doesn't have a picture, you can just take the picture and send it to us and we'll approve it. And that just makes everything so much easier. Or if it's a wrong picture or they remodeled, then the business owner can just go and click it and send it to us, and then we'll be like, okay, well, they update it, so that goes in. And then the second part of your question.
Well, you say, like, for example, a restaurant will show up, if I'm interested in it. Now, is that showing up because that restaurant paid for advertising, or is that something that's relevant that I want to have, that I'm interested in?
No, everything is for the student, right?
Oh,
so we'll have a list of all the restaurants and everything, and you can go and check out the restaurants. And when it comes to deals, you can subscribe to your favorite restaurants to get only notifications from your favorite restaurants.
Let's go ahead and break there. Great. Well, that's it for the formal presentation. Are there any announcements for the next month about other events coming up that folks want to talk about? Yes.
I would like to, I am Jeremy Eckhouse. I'm one of the co-organizers for Mobile Mondays. And this coming, it's the second Monday anyway of May, we're going to be treated to a presentation from Mozilla on the upcoming Mozilla operating system and the accompanying phone, which they've been in development of, and talking about some other mobile operating systems. And that starts at 6 o'clock at CompuWare. And we serve pizza, so please don't go hungry. But do come, and we have a good time.
Yeah, on May 25th, I'm part of a group that's hosting a event on crowdfunding. It's Saturday, May 25th, 12 to 4. We're going to be at Atomic Object, which is another venue that DNewTech usually hosts at. It's free. Like I said, providing food. It's kind of an educational thing on, what is crowdfunding, how can it help you raise money for your business or your idea. And yeah, it's open, and if you're looking for how to sign up, you can find it on the DNewTech calendar later this week, or you can Google, I think the keywords are no do crowdfunding, and it's like the third result. We might have pizza.
Richard?
May 5th is the closing date for submission to the next GLEQ competition. So you still have a few more days in order to get that in. If you want, just go to gleq.org.
What's the next one?
Pardon me?
When's the next one after this?
About every 6 months.
Fall and spring.
Yeah.
This is the closing for the June, I think it's 18th, whatever that Tuesday is, third week or so. This is sort of the finals for the year. And then the cycle starts up again, and it's a January ending submission, so things will be due in November, December for the first part of GeoMQ. Yes?
I'm Dr. Allen. I'm the director of the Southeast Michigan Entrepreneurs Association, and we have a meeting coming up on May 23rd, and it's a social media expert. She's going to be talking about how to use LinkedIn to grow your business. And if you're interested, I have a few flyers, and it's free.
Did you find an answer to the validation question?
Oh, well, I called the person he told me to call, Matt, and he said they are not validating parking, but if you go up on the 9th floor, they'll give you a sticker, and that's what we did.
Oh, okay. So it'll be a mass exodus to the 9th floor. Any other announcements? Our next DNewTech meeting will be on Wednesday, June 5th. Remember, we're always the first Wednesday of the month. And I think that everyone can hang around for a bit. There's some more munchies over there, but please circulate, exchange business cards and whatnot, and just chat. Again, thank you all for coming out. It's been a really great evening.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Thank you.